Hey, what's going on? Kyle Means here. We are RegalRadio.com, War Media. Jumping on right quick for our latest, I guess our first 2021 session of Running with War. You see Josh Hicks making sure that his lining is looking all right on the screen. Chris Pennant is going to join us soon, and we're gonna just go about an hour or so. Pretty much up until 8 o'clock. Talk about a couple things. I would guess the one national thing we're going to talk about, which is the big Harden trade and all the fallout from that. And also probably talk a little. We're gonna definitely talk a little Bulls and talk in particular probably about Zach LaVine and how he's been doing his thing, and some people are calling for the Bulls to ramp up their efforts to trade him. So I don't know. There's a discussion to be had there about how the Bulls should go about that, or even if they should go about that. I think we're gonna have an interesting piece come out tomorrow on the site on weareregalradio.com with our fourth guy, Drew, who isn't going to be here tonight, but he's going to put out a nice piece tomorrow about LaVine. And I don't know, man, Josh, if, the thing with LaVine is that, for so long, people have been like, well, he's not a number one. But, what if he is a number one, or at least a 1A? You muted, man. You got anything you want to say about that right quick?
Oh yeah. I mean, from the previous times that we've discussed things, especially along with the Bulls, I've made it clear that I'm probably one of the only few people out the group in general that was like, Zach's a 1A. Like, I'll give him a 1A. He has the potential to be a 1A, and you could just see it from year to year how he improves offensively, especially when it comes to scoring the ball and shooting the ball effectively. I mean, he's average in the last I want to say 5-6 games that they played. He's averaged 35 a game. He can fill it up when necessary as the number one option. But that's also because he has the green light. I think, and since he has that green light, he's making the most of his opportunities. But at the same time, he's not technically a superstar, and he still has to prove himself as an all-star. So for him to even get to that all-star level, which we know he is capable of, I think that's the biggest thing we have to worry about when it comes to him. And you're talking about him taking the Bulls to the next level. We got to make sure that he gets to that type of caliber player on a consistent basis before we start talking about making him a number one option for the Bulls long term. But he's a heck of a 1A. I think he's a really heck of a 1A, especially on the deal that he's on right now. It would make sense for the Bulls to at least consider, listening to calls of teams that may want him because of his contract situation and the potential that's there. But to completely jump off the bandwagon and say, you got to get rid of him, that's too soon to be thinking that right now.
That's hasty, man. But see, my thinking was that, though, like, he really turned up in LA. So I was like, oh, is he auditioning for LeBron? Is he auditioning for Kawhi or what? I don't know. Maybe he want to stay out in LA,
I mean, I don't blame him. LA is nothing but palm trees and warm weather, baby. It's sunshine. Why not?
Right. That's the Kendrick song right there. Bloody weed and weather. Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't stay out there.
Exactly. I can't blame him.
But Chris, we talking about we talking about Zach LaVine right here off top. And we're gonna get into definitely the Harden trade and stuff in a little bit. But what do you think about this? I gave y'all the article a little earlier this week. Cowley, of course, mixing things up and calling outright for a trade. And we look at the environment now in the league where it's like, you look at all that Houston got for Harden. The Bulls. What could the market be for Zach LaVine? If we sell high enough, If we sell him at his height, what could they get back that would be worth it to trade him at this point where he's looking at probably at the best that he's looked as a Bull? Because when we look at the last time they were in this position with Jimmy, you gotta say that they sold low on a guy who was still projecting high. But I don't know. What do you got to say, Chris?
I think it depends on it depends on how each guy is perceived around the league. No matter what, James Harden is perceived as a guy who instantly makes your team a championship contender or at least a playoff contender. The second of which I think is true. No matter what, if you put James Harden onto like a mid-level team and didn't have to give up half your roster, then they're a playoff contender. Zach LaVine isn't seen that way. We haven't talked about it yet, but we're going to get to the comments made by our man Joe Cowley earlier this week after their West Coast trip ended. But I think Zach LaVine is still seen as a volume scorer, even though he's really excelling as the league migrates even more towards offense oriented beyond the 3-point line. But outside the arc and inside the paint. I'll qualify that. So I think he's an asset. It would be hard for me to say what they would get back other than draft picks from a team, solely because I'm not fully versed in what every team has to offer. I wouldn't expect them to get more than a role player, maybe a couple of expiring contracts and picks, just because Zach LaVine, and to be fair, Zach LaVine doesn't have the resume that James Harden has. He's not an MVP. He's not multiple-time All-Star. He's not 3-time scoring champion. He isn't those things. What he is a guy who can consistently give you buckets. I don't know if he changes an offense in the same way that James Harden does. And that's coming from me, who isn't really a fan of James Harden's offensive game, even though it's effective. To say it's effective is a real understatement. But I think the perception of what both players can do for you is why Zach LaVine just commands less on the market. That said, I wouldn't want to trade LaVine yet because this is the first time that we've seen him healthy in a coherent system with the Chicago Bulls and around him who are actually happy to be playing for the team. It's not even that the guys couldn't stand each other; they just didn't want to be there.
They couldn't stand the coach, definitely.
Right after a month or 2 months, you don't want to show up to a job where the boss is an idiot and he keeps coming up and telling you to work harder, and then he turns around and bumps into an open door. You don't want to be at that job. So now Zach he's finally in a workplace that's good. So I wouldn't want to trade for him unless the Bulls stayed like if the Bulls get bad, then you see what kind of market you have for LaVine. If the Bulls are 500, how much more does he have left on his deal? If he's a free agent after this season, yeah, man, you see what you can get for him at the deadline. But if he has one more year left on his contract, and I'm checking this right now,
is it 1 or 2? I think it's
next year is the last year of his deal. So I would let him play this season out. And then if the Bulls are if they look like they need one more piece and you can trade LaVine to get that piece, or there's somebody in the draft that is ready, that will be ready, that you could trade somebody else to get a pick, then you do that.
And there's the possibility of him still drawing someone, because we was just talking look, if he's not a 1, he's not a 1, but maybe he's a solid 2 who you can draw to get a 1, or he's a 1A who you can draw to get a 1. Like in 2021, it's going to be some. I have to look back at the list, but it's going to be some top flight people in free agency. And when you look at something like like Brooklyn, which is now overflowing with talent, top flight talent, they didn't do anything really to. They didn't do all these crazy things to make themselves appealing. They pretty much just overplayed 1 year, and they made themselves look like a playoff contender, not even a Eastern Conference contender. They made themselves to a team that was like, okay, if me and my boy go to this team, which essentially was Kyrie and Durant, if we go here, we gonna ball and we gonna be instant contenders if we add ourselves to this thing. Bulls could be in a similar position where if you may have a player out there, again, I have to look at the list, to see who's gonna be free agents, but I think Kawhi may even be a free agent though this coming year, right, Josh?
Yeah. I think Kawhi is like one of the only top superstars right now that's supposed to be a free agent. Since LeBron had signed an extension, AD already signed an extension, Giannis signed his. All those top 3 or 4 players in the league for sure have already signed this, and even Paul George, he was supposed to be a free agent, but he signed his extension.
Right, he signed his. Yeah. So, but just it's dreaming, but he's known to roam, so it's like maybe he's like, well, shoot, this LaVine kid, he's a little bit better right now than Paul George is. Maybe I want to team up with him. You never know. It's if Brooklyn can do it, the Bulls can do it, especially at this point where they've revamped their franchise, they revamped their leadership. They're not the Jim Broylan hiring type anymore. So they have Billy Donovan. They have a guy who is respected as a coach. They have front office people who are respected as a GM who's respected and a VP of basketball operations respected. So, we'll see at the end of the season. But if you have a Zach LaVine who averages, 27, 28 points, and he leads the Bulls to the play-in at least, and he looks like an all-star all year, that's going to be tempting for somebody out there in the league. Some of these top guys in the league.
What I'm looking at is that the thing that the Bulls have on their side is that they have a relatively low payroll next year, and they have a lot of
money's coming off the books.
This year. Yeah, it's either expiring this year or next year. So you figure if you can trade Otto Porter or Thaddeus Young at the deadline, and we know Otto's playing for a contract right now, like he's making $28.5 million. It amazes me because I was so high on
that's
Otto
on the Wizards though. That's on the Wizards. The Bulls just traded for it, but that's on the Wizards.
Like I was so high on him coming out of Georgetown because he looked like a bruiser who could shoot. And then coming from a dude with glasses, he got those goggles, and it made him like Urkel instead of Urkel, man. I don't know what happened. But you got Otto Porter, who's on the last year of his deal this year. He's a free agent. Garrett Temple's on a 1-year deal. Thaddeus Young's contract's up next year, and you figure that that's a team option. So you figure that teams are always looking for a guy like Thaddeus Young if they feel like they need one piece to contend. So if there's anybody that you could trade at the trade deadline to get picks or to get cash considerations or to just flip a guy, it will be a Thaddeus Young or an Otto Porter, rather than getting rid of LaVine, who is not necessarily an easily replaceable player. I don't want to say commodity. Let's get out of after the Jackie Mack audio leak. Let's get out of calling players commodities or objects. An easily replaceable player, given what Zach LaVine can do in this generation's NBA. And then you got Satoransky, who's a dependable player who teams like, and you could trade for him. You could trade him. And then you're basically left with the core group of guys that are going to go somewhere, kind of accepting Markkanen and Hutch and Denzel Valentine. So if you got P. Will, those guys, and Flower Boy, man, that's my guy. So that in itself, those guys are still on rookie deals. That's $25-30 million That is minuscule in terms of the salary cap. So then you go free agent hunting.
Yeah,
I mean, it's possible. I mean, it's possible, and I think because of the fact that the Bulls made these moves at the time that they did to bring in Arturas Karnisovas, to bring in Mark Eversley, they kind of and Billy Donovan, they brought in the safety nets that's supposed to move the Bulls' trajectory in the right direction. And I call it safety nets because, like we just talked about, free agency wise, they should be able to make they have the cap space to make some major moves next offseason. But at the same time, you have you have experience of someone that knows how to develop talent through a draft. So if you're so along with the fact that you have, off-season money you can spend, you also have quality assets from a draft perspective where if you make the right choices and truly develop that talent, they can make some impact, for your team as well. And Patrick Williams is a prime example of that. Nobody really knew of Patrick Williams like that, but just from the games that he's played, especially starting wise, he's made good impacts. He's guarded the best players in the league. He's contributed offensively. His offensive ceiling has been projected higher than what we expected when we first originally, selected him. And now NBA players that are like LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi, they've put him on notice and they've made it known that this guy's going to be special in this league because of the quality and character traits that he brings to the table. And to have that developed under a staff like Billy Donovan and Mo Cheeks and those guys that actually coach that quality talent or that quality trajectory, the sky's the limit for what the Bulls can do moving forward as long as they continue to make the right moves that they do. But at the end of the day, you got to get superstars. And Chicago is willing and deserving of a superstar. We have the market for a superstar. It's about what you do to develop the talent that you have to bring together that perfect portfolio for free agents to come to the table. And I think the Bulls have somewhat put themselves in the right trajectory to do that. We just got to wait and see what happens, like Kyle said, at the end of the season and how this season plays out.
They're definitely in a better position now than they were a year ago, than they were 11 months ago when fans were chanting Fire Guard Packs on ESPN and TNT broadcasts here during All-Star Weekend. And, like I said, you got to give it up to the Reinsdorfs. They eventually rolled over and let the franchise do something better for itself, let it better itself. And it's, at this point, the Bulls are still the results haven't been winning results yet, but they've played better against better teams. And you look at this West Coast trip that they just, that they're wrapping up on, they wrapped up on. They was, they're supposed to play the other day against Boston, but the COVID, that's something else we could talk about. How COVID is affecting the league right now. But they had that game canceled or postponed, and they're scheduled to play Oklahoma City. Return game for Billy Donovan tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. But Bulls are still under 500 right now. But what did you think about the way that they played against the two LA teams? Two entertaining games. They came up short in both of them, but Zach really snapped off and like I say, really a great sort of one-on. And this is the type of thing where it's like you gotta, when you have those moments where you're sort of like one-on-one with another elite player, you gotta utilize those moments. It's on Sunday he looked like a guy who, at least for that game, could put himself on a level with Kawhi. So I think that was a meaningful performance for Zach. So, but what did you think about Zach and the team overall in the LA games, or even going back to the big Portland comeback and the West Coast trip as a whole?
You'll be amazed how much of an impact it is to have actual people know what they're doing on your staff. That's just pretty much what it is. Because if you put the Jim Boylen era staff in the same position with that same talent of players that we have now, because it's pretty much the same roster except for maybe a couple players from last year. So you put that same roster under Jim Boylen, you would have got guys giving up. They would have went straight to AAU. chuck the ball. Let me get mine real quick. It's a wrap, right? Yeah, but this specific year with this Billy Donovan staff, they taught them what it's like to play in tight moments. You could tell they practiced tight game moments. They practiced, what to do in certain situations. You can actually tell they have a defensive scheme. You can tell that they actually have offensive schemes. You can tell that these players are taking it seriously. I mean, even a prime example is Zach LaVine as a whole, because we know Zach LaVine can chuck it, but what he performed was, you can tell that he played within the flow of the game, and he knew when in the right moments when to step up and take over the game. That's what separates you from the best of the best. We know you can put the ball in the bucket, but when the time and moments matter, can you take over a game and say, I am the Rock, give me the ball, I'm going to work. And he did that, especially against in that Clippers game. And you also see other players developing, like Kobe White, where he actually passed the ball. He facilitated the ball very well and actually ran an offense, compared to, trying to have two shooting guards in your backcourt, trying to figure out
about that the game against the Clippers.
Yes. I think he finished the game with, I want to say, 8 assists or something along those lines.
13. I think he had 13 assists.
Yeah, 13 assists. To see that progression and that fight in them, that dog in them. Having veteran guys like Garrett Temple and Otto Porter coming off your bench compared to just starting them, to give that flexibility, that stability. To me, that's just coaching. That's nothing to do with just players continuing to develop. That should be expected over time. But being able to make adjustments, being able to have defensive schemes and offensive schemes heading into the game, and then at halftime being able to say, you know what, scratch this. This is not working. We got to go to something different. That makes a huge difference as far as your progression as a team. And that's something that we saw this so far with Billy Donovan that we have not seen under the previous Bulls regimes.
Well said. Chris, you got anything you want to add to that?
This is a watchable Bulls team, and that's important. Blackhawks fans can attest to, I think, having a product. I want to try to make that point clear, because it might not be apparent. When the Blackhawks were not on TV because their owner decided that it was not worth as much to him, and the Blackhawks were getting better. What happened when the new regime came in, when he died and his son came in, is he said, let's be smart about this. Let's put this team on TV, but let's also make this team watchable. Like it doesn't matter if we get the TV rights back and the team is garbage. People are they're going to watch them, but they're going to be upset after a season or so. Chicago, like any town, wants their teams to be watchable. So if the Bulls aren't watchable, it's going to be the same complaints. Bears fans, actually, let me say, Bears fans can attest. There's a lot of Bears fans jumping off the ship right now because they pretty much heard ownership give them a thumb to the eye. They pretty much watched ownership give them a thumb to the eye the last couple of days. Bulls decided not to do that. And so right now the Bulls are watchable. They have a chance to go somewhere to be something. And that's what's keeping people like me interested, who are Bulls fans but are more casual, so to speak, than other even sports journalists are. But tuning in this season is apparent that the Bulls are actually engaged. And that's the best thing that I could have, I think, hoped for this season coming out of where they were the last two.
That's a real correlation too, man, from the Bulls to the Bears. The Bears are playing the role now that the Bulls played for several years, leading up to the regime change, with Gar Pax was, the last several years of Gar Pax. That's pretty much Ted Phillips and Ryan Pace right now, man. And Nagy, Nagy isn't quite boiling. He's sort of a mix probably between Hoiberg and I can't put any. The only way he's like Tibbs is that his players play for him. Like he hasn't lost his players, but he isn't like Tibbs in any other way beyond that. But he's definitely Hoiberg-esque, I would say. But the Bears are really just filling that sorry role now, and that insincere, unapologetic, we know what we doing. Just be patient. No, you don't know what you're doing. You don't have a plan. You just wading out the water, trying to hope. And that's something that I think the Bears are going to have to get to a rock bottom part. Not to not to make this into a football show there, but they're going to have to get to that rock bottom thing that the Bulls got to, like I said, at the All-Star break when they were hosting the All-Star game, and it wasn't, they had no All-Star representatives. The only thing that really made the game unique to be in Chicago was the fact that the fans were just overtaken with this feeling of showing how displeased they were with the ownership and the front office, and they were showing that on national TV every chance they get. And the Reinsdorfs couldn't hide from that anymore. They couldn't hide from their embarrassment anymore, and that caused them to make changes immediately. The Bears have to be in that position at some point in the future for them to make the changes that they need to make. Anyway, but let's transition over. Like I said, let's talk about something we could be a little bit more objective about, and get into this Harden trade. And first off, what are your thoughts? What were your immediate thoughts when you heard about this trade? And the talk for so long was about, it was like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess, eventually, because it was what Harden wanted, and it was what so much of the media was speaking that was going to happen. The Nets really were one of the few places that you could actually trade them to anyway. But eventually, you end up getting a couple other teams in the mix as well. So Cleveland and Indiana gets in the mix, and it's interesting just the way that this whole thing played out. But what do you think about of course Harden moving to the Nets is the headline, but you also have Oladipo moving to Houston, and you have Karis LeVert moving to Indiana now, and this Jared Allen going to Cleveland. Like, this is one of the more interesting NBA trades that's happened in quite a while.
Bro, Jared Allen. Why did they give up Jared Allen? Josh, you get the full response, but why did they give up Jared Allen, man?
Because Jordan was too cool. Jordan was too cool with the stars, man. They couldn't get rid of Jordan.
Man, they really needed Jared Allen. Josh, you got it though. You got it.
Look, speaking of Jared Allen, I just want to pray for the man because he's gonna be miserable in Cleveland. I mean, I don't even know why Cleveland took him, just because you already got a whole front roster, like 5 big men over there. Anyways, didn't make sense to me. But as
they
far
may
as
want to do a 7-foot lineup.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna have Andre Drummond be the point guard.
Yeah.
But I mean, the overall trade, I think, to me, kind of even itself out. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that obviously James Harden got what he wants. He's playing with Kevin Durant, playing with Kyrie Irving. That's one of the most talented super teams you could ever, the big three you can ever put on a roster. For me, probably since if you want to talk about the way it was originated, talk about KD, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson with the Warriors. But even back to when he started this whole thing by teaming up with D-Wade and Chris Bosh, like, you're talking about literally arguably 3 of the top 5, 10 players in the league on one team. That's pretty crazy to do, and especially in the way that they did it. For them to pull off that James Harden trade and keep Kyrie in the process, I thought that was very impressive, especially since you didn't get rid of Spencer Dinwiddie, you kept Joe Harris, and you kept Shamet. So you kept shooting on your team while you also was able to keep superstars. That, I think, for the Nets, that was one of the major pluses of the deal. But at the same time, I'm high on this Houston deal just because, of course, Houston got the overhaul load of picks where it made it seem like it was OKC 2.0 in one trade. But at the same time, you also got a superstar, or at least an all-star, Victor Oladipo, to pair with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. All three that's a small big three in the West that has something to prove. They all coming off injuries. They all coming trying to make a name for themselves, especially Oladipo, who is going to be a free agent after this season. His status is uncertain, so he has something to prove. And for him to pair with John Wall, who has shown impressive signs of, coming back from those injuries and looking very, pretty well considering what he went through. And DeMarcus Cousins, even though he may not be contributing the big time numbers we know, he's still very effective on the court. I think that revived their playoff chances when it comes to them trying to make a push to at least make it somewhat between that middle 4 or 5 to the 8th seed when it comes to the playoff run. I think this trade really revived their chances. It brought relief and a new sign of hope for the Rockets to maintain at least through this season if they don't trade Victor Oladipo down the line at the trade deadline, whatever the case may be. So I think if anything, this really helped Houston revive themselves, as well as elevate the Brooklyn Nets without losing too much. And you want to talk about Indiana, this is just a reset button for them. I think this was just another way to reset the roster moving forward, and to give someone like Karis LeVert, who's a promising young talent in the league.
Yeah.
That's something that I think for the East, even though we may not expect Indiana to, make as big of a run we could have now that Oladipo's gone, it keeps them afloat for a little bit. So that's kind of how I view it, where it's kind of on an equal playing field because each team has specific needs of where they're trying to go. And each of these in this trade really kind of levels them out as far as the trajectory where that direction is going.
Yeah, I'm with you, Josh. I think I like what Houston did. When I first was seeing the details, I was like, is Morey still working for Houston? I'm like all these picks and all these conditionals and stuff, like they work. Whoever they got now making the deals, like they should have hollered at our guy Gabriel about that, because he's a Houston guy. But they did well for themselves, and they built up a future where they're going to have a lot of options and draft capital going forward. And that's, it's sort of like the old Herschel Walker trade in the NFL, where the Cowboys got the picks that they built their 90s dynasty off of by giving away Herschel Walker to Minnesota. Yeah. So, they did well for themselves. They're getting Oladipo, whether he's a year rental or not. If he's not a year rental and they get him next summer and get him re-up, that's going to really be a nice come up for them. And Indiana, like you say, I like Indiana with getting LeVert. Like, Indiana knows, they found out earlier this year, in this early part of the season, that they could play without Oladipo. Sabonis is ready now. They got Turner, they got Brogdon. And now you add LeVert to that. So, they're not going to be they're not a top 4 team in the East, but they're a dangerous possible 5 or 6 or 7 team in that middle range. So, I like all this. I even like, Cleveland has played some good ball early on this year. There's still a lot of work to be done there. And there's some talk about maybe Drummond being on the trade deadline, market and stuff like that. So I said in the text, Chris, you probably see it in another text line. Like, I thought that would have been a good spot for the Bulls to be in, to pick up Jared Allen and Prince to Tayshaun Prince, not Tayshaun, but Taurean Prince, yeah. And they can give up any draft picks. They gave up Dante Exum and some other dude. That's something I would have liked the Bulls to see, just to get themselves in the mix with something. But we still got Wendell Carter as our rim protector. So but
shade in there, man.
But Jared Allen, I think eventually he's going to be the starting 5 in Cleveland. He's got to be.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who, like you said, Chris, they're missing a lot with him. I saw on the Jump earlier today on ESPN. A lot of their advanced defensive numbers have gone down. The Nets' advanced defensive numbers have gone down the tubes with this trade, but they're going to be able to score with anybody on any night. Another thing that I saw, their top three players are the top three. They're the top three players. Three of the only 8 players in the league to have 1,000 clutch points in the past 8 years. So they're going to be hard to stop when it comes to late game possessions, and no matter how much points you got on them, they're going to be able to get some more. And we'll see how they play out, man. What do y'all think about? Is it overdrawn? Is it overstated that this is going to be a potential? That the mix could be potentially bad between those 3 guys. How do you anticipate them playing with each other?
I think it's hard to overstate that given the personalities. I'll give Kevin Durant this though. When the time comes to ball, he balls. We make a lot of his free agency move to Golden State, but he balled out in Golden State. My guy Dan Meehan, who is on the 3 Alphas blog or on the 3 Alphas podcast, he has a deep, lasting hatred for Kevin Durant that part of me shares for the move he made, but it led him to say that he deferred when he was in Golden State, and we had to correct him quick because he didn't. He was the guy that they looked to in plenty of clutch moments, and so I don't have any problem with Kevin Durant in this scenario. I think it's gonna fall to Harden and Kyrie and the coexistence there, man. You really can't take away the chemistry argument on this. When you brought in KD in Golden State, Draymond was going to wear on everybody's nerves, sure, but that was going to happen eventually anyway. That's Draymond. That's the type of guy he is. You can play with him for a long time, but either you can hey man, calm down just for a moment, or you can't deal with him,
right,
for over a certain amount of time. So having those 3 there had a shelf life. It was very successful, but it had a shelf life. This has a shelf life too, I think, just because of James Harden and a lot of Kyrie. You can say what you want about Kyrie. He's a smart dude. He's his own person, and that's going to grate on folks in some way too. But on the court, this is the part where I don't know if the argument about is one ball enough for 3 guys. Joe Harris is not going to have a problem with this. The other guys they still got on the roster are not going to have a problem with they're basically going to be in pretty much the same roles. But I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. The only thing that I'll say about it is this: it's not like the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett deal that Billy King made, because these guys are younger.
Oh no, yeah.
So the Nets didn't mortgage the future on this one. That's why I'm not too mad about the picks that Houston got in terms of Brooklyn side of things, because if all goes right, the Nets will be good enough that those picks won't mean anything. The only thing that Houston would be able to do is flip those to another team possibly. Yeah. But if Brooklyn,
you're mostly going to be talking late first rounders with those anyway, but they're good to have for Houston. But they don't mean as much for Brooklyn. Right.
I mean, the chemistry idea, it just kind of bugs me how it's gonna be. Ricky O'Donnell did point out that James Harden in the games he's played is still averaging like 24 and 10 and shooting the lights out.
He is.
But I haven't seen that many games, but I'm going to go with the idea that he was disinterested from people that I trust who said it. And so the change of scenery is going to get him back interested. But he's got to reverse the rookie year Charles Barkley that he set himself on. and get back in playing shape. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Hey, did you see? God, what's my man name? Used to write for Slam.
Scoop?
No. I'm gonna get it up in a second. But he said he always wanted to see what Sean Price would look like in a Nets jersey. Oh, hey, man, you bogus for that.
Nets jersey with Ruck on
Russ Bengtsson.
Oh, okay.
Bengtsson, yeah.
Brooklyn Nets jersey with Ruck.
Oh, man, God.
I hate the fact that they gave up Jared Allen in that trade, and Karis LeVert to some degree, because unless he's unhappy with having a bench role, which I could see that could be possible, you keep him. You keep him as backup behind either Kyrie or Harden for if they're hurt or just for extra pop off the bench.
Mm-hmm. He absolutely been a key element for them if they kept him. So yeah, it's a risk to take him off. He can, who knows what he can do.
Also, I'm good. Yeah. I'm okay with the trade for James Harden. I'm fine with
that. Yeah, I think in order to even make this work, that's why they had to get all the teams involved, because of the fact that Karis LeVert and Jared Allen are so valuable to that team, especially that young core, to the point where you had no choice but to get rid of them to get the best of the best, and that's the price that's the bullet that you bite when you're trying to get top tier talent to come to your team. But at the same time, I'm optimistic that this could work, and this is why. That's why you have Mike D'Antoni with Steve Nash. Just for this type of offense, Mike D'Antoni, James Harden. He offense around James Harden, and he also is the architect that Steve Nash is currently running, which is the quick 7-second, get the best shot and pick and roll type of offense. That's this in an offensive league like this, they can thrive in that. And at the same time, James Harden has been very open in saying that he wants to win. Everything's about winning. If everything's about winning, he's going to have to sacrifice. The only time he actually sacrificed was when he played against Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City at that third guy. That experience for him was he played a very vital role in helping them get to the NBA Finals in 2012 when they played against LeBron James. And then Miami Heat. So because of that experience, I think that will play a very key role in him being a third guy if he has to be chosen to be that third guy in Brooklyn, and having someone like Mike D'Antoni that he's comfortable with, and from a coach perspective, and having Kevin Durant, which is someone he actually played with for half of his career, I think because of those rapports, them being able to work together was going to make the transition for James Harden that much easier. It may be, and obviously it's going to be a little rocky at first because you're still trying to figure things out. Hell, you're trying to even figure out if Kyrie's even going to play the rest of the season because he's all over the place. But at the same time, I think because of the fact that James Harden has experience of not being the number one guy and doing it with a guy that he actually trusts in Kevin Durant, I think, and having Mike D'Antoni there, it's going to make that transition and that sacrifice a little bit easier, to the point where when you bring Kyrie back, they'll be able to gel in ways that, as outsiders, we would expect. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's Kevin Durant's team. Kevin Durant is by far the best player on that team. So they know when it's go time, Kevin Durant's getting that ball. And Kevin Durant is going to work in the end of the game. Like I think they understand that there's no arguing with that. But within the flow of an offense and any given night, they're gonna probably play it just like they did in Golden State. Whoever's hot, you go for it. And there's gonna be some sacrifice in between. And you mentioned obviously losing Jared Allen and guys that play key roles. Even with this currently structured roster, the Nets still have 3 roster slots, and you can utilize a lot of minimum contract deals to fill up those 3 spots. And there's still a decent market out there that could open up for a rim protector, for a veteran guard that can come off the bench and give you a spark and give you some buckets. or even a wing talent, or even a backup point guard that can fill in for Kyrie or whoever is running that offense. It still have spots with some still quality talent in the offseason in the free agent market, as well as the buyout market when that buyout market is out, to where they can fill in those roles and still be elite and at the top of their game and overall and add more depth to that bench. So I think I'm probably more optimistic than many people can think, but I think it's because of the past experiences that James Harden has and the fact that his familiarity to the point where you don't have just a coach that he played for and that he respects and likes. He also has a top tier talent and a friend in Kevin Durant that he played with in a role where he may be familiar and have to go back to with this currently structured roster.
As they are now,
coach.
What did you say, Chris?
What do you think of Steve Nash as a coach? Just within my group of friends, they're not high on him. I know Scoop said that he was qualified, and I'm not disinclined to trust Scoop, or I say I'm not inclined to distrust Scoop is a better way to put that. But I just want to get it from y'all. Like, what do y'all think of Steve Nash as a head coach so far?
He's a player's coach.
I don't. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't have much read on him. I mean, I haven't even paid. I can't say I've paid that much attention, but there hasn't much that's really emerged to whether you can judge. But Josh, like you say, he probably is more of a player's coach because he just was a player a second ago. Go ahead and continue on that.
No, that's a very good point. Like you mentioned, Kyle, he just started, so we really won't be able to know what his capabilities are as a coach. But he has the experience as a former elite NBA point guard, who's going to pretty much eventually be a Hall of Famer. He has the background of player relativity because obviously he played against Kyrie Irving, played against Kevin Durant. He helped coach Kevin Durant in Golden State. So he built a coaching rapport already with Kevin Durant. Yeah. And on top of that, he has a staff that's elite as well. He has Mike D'Antoni, who he played for, but also is an architect offensively that fits the skill set that Brooklyn is constantly bringing in. So I think he surrounded himself with quality assistants and top-tier assistants that can help aid his coaching abilities, as well as the fact that he does have experience of what it's like to coach championship talent. And you bring all of that together, obviously that's going to take time to fully emerge as a long-term coach because he has to get that actual head coaching experience. But with the resume of him as a player, his expertise offensively, especially as a point guard, and combining that with his experience on the Golden State Warriors under Steve Kerr and that offensive system and coaching that top-tier talent and combining it with the talent that he actually played with and against, and having the coaching expertise that coached that talent, he's in a very prime position to really excel in Brooklyn, at least as a long-term solution coaching wise because of what he's surrounded with.
When you say players coach, there's different people spring to mind in terms of success as being able to coach or being successful because the team was already that good. So on the one side, I hate to mix sports up, you've got players coaches who were successful like Flip Saunders, say, right? Players respected the hell out of him. And then on the other side, you got Larry Coker, who was in Miami that year after they let go of Butch Davis, or the Butch Davis left.
Oh, yeah.
And he won because the team was that good. So do you think, I know it's early, it's 13 games into his career, but do you think from what you've seen, does Steve Nash fall in the first group or the second?
Well, given I was just thinking, like I said, there hasn't been much to draw from, but I think that little dip that they had in the previous week or so, coming out of they shot out like a cannon with the first couple of guys, but there was a little dip prior to this trade. So I think he's gonna, like any other young coach, he's going to learn how to, even though he can relate to his guys well, he's going to have to learn how to administer discipline, how to engender a unified vision for his team, and how to exploit their chemistry in a way. He's got to learn a lot of things that, it's good that they have the staff that they have so many former ex-coaches and stuff, because he's going to have to lean on those guys.
Right.
Definitely through this year. And you're looking at a team that they're built to win now. They're looking to play deep into the postseason. They're looking to be a finals contender. So they're going to be some bumps that they're going to take in some high pressure games going forward. So, like I said, by the end of the season, we'll know a bit more about Steve Nash and what's possible for him as a coach. But there's always the possibility that he could be a Kerr, and that's a guy who had championship experience, and he got himself into a position, an ideal position, and he sort of grew as a coach, but he also had the good fortune of having the best team of his generation protecting him. So, if the Nets have the team that's going to be the team in the Eastern Conference for the next couple of years, this is an ideal way for Steve Nash to begin his coaching career, I would say.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. I was going to say he might end up being like another Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr fell into a more established team that that became a dynasty. Brooklyn now has set up themselves to where it can be going down that same trajectory, but we also have to be mindful that those years, like last year when Clay was hurt, when Steph was hurt, we don't have that top tier talent. You're going to struggle, and Steve Kerr struggled as a coach. I won't be surprised if you took the big three in Brooklyn out right now, then he might go through the same thing. So I think we have to be cognizant, especially as a rookie coach. So we got to be cognizant of the fact that right now everything looks bliss because of the fact that he has all this talent. He has all the coaching expertise and things of that sort around him. But at the same time, I won't be surprised if past these couple of years, let's just say things die out, or for some reason this big three doesn't stay after the next couple of years that they have left on their contracts together, and you have to be in a rebuild situation. Steve Nash might struggle a little bit, just like Steve Kerr did when Steph Curry was out all last season, and Draymond was out for 3/4 of the season, and Clay was out all last year. I won't be surprised if he goes through those type of same bumps, like Kyle said, bumps and bruises when he's trying to develop as a coach.
Yeah, I agree with that. Cool, I appreciate that. I just wanted to get that idea out there and see what y'all thought.
But yeah, we're gonna wrap up here in a minute here. But before we go, what are your thoughts overall on them being? Are they the team to beat in the East now? Are they destined to see the Lakers in the finals? Whether we think the projection is for this team, at least in this year, going forward.
Hell, they better make the finals. Shoot. I mean, you get all this top tier talent. You have literally the two scoring champions that have done it at least 3 times consecutive seasons in their careers, and are still doing it at efficient level. With one of the scoring champions is literally, as people have called him, arguably the best player in the game today. You better believe you better get your ass to the finals. I mean, that's a given. It's championship or bust. And the fact that there's so much hype around it, the way things are going about it, this is the prime year to do it. The Bucks, I don't think the Bucks got better to the point where they're going to come back to the East, go to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I doubt that's going to happen. Toronto right now is looking terrible. They're 2-8 right now. They're not looking like they're going to be able to bounce back and have the finals or the deep playoff runs that they're accustomed to. So it's like, you're the Nets. The Nets is it. That's the best roster that's the best team on the roster right now to compare.
Well, let's look at one more team. Let's look at one more team before we go, though. And this is a team that actually could have just as easily traded for Harden yesterday, and that's Philly. Now you have Simmons, who apparently was worried that he was going to get traded. They played well. You know. I don't know. Like I see your face there, Josh. What you got to say?
If Ben Simmons can't shoot, they ain't going nowhere. Like, that's just my evaluation of it because of the fact that this is such an offensive league now. Like, you have to be able to shoot the ball at some rate in order for the offense and the defense to shift. That's why Philadelphia has fallen short for so long. Because
you don't think they have enough shooters around them now?
They might now, yeah. But even with shooters, look how far did they went when JJ Redick and Marco Bellinelli and those guys were in Philadelphia. They only made it to the second round. They got bounced out in the second round. So you need more than just that. And I think, and I do think they're in a prime position.
Yeah, I think they need Embiid to give them 42 and 15s when they have when needed. And if he's performing the way that he's performed so far this year, and he remains healthy, I think that's going to make him even more of a difference than whether Simmons shoots or not. Though I agree with you, he definitely should shoot more. But I'm just throwing them out there. Like I said, I think there's a tie-in that they have with the Nets now that could, it could ingratiate some sort of rivalry there, some sort of thing there, But like you say, Josh, there's, Boston too. They're dealing with a lot of COVID stuff. They're not in the greatest place right now. Toronto, like you said, they've fallen off a bit. And what was the other team you mentioned? Well, Milwaukee, like I said, they still have some talent. Maybe not enough talent, but we'll see how that goes. Miami hasn't looked that great coming off of their run last year. So the Nets have a wide open opportunity. They have the seas have opened up for them. So, but you never know in this league. Like I said, we never know with those personalities that's involved in that big three, man. You still got to hold off and see how they gel together. Could they? Are they going to gel the right way, or are they going to create some sort of monster thing that Steve Kerr isn't quite equipped to deal with, But talent-wise, on paper, I guess they are the favorite right now. So, we'll see how they go. We got the trade that we expected. We got the trade that was going to define the season, and let's see how they run it. It was going to be fun to see.
If I don't get KD versus LeBron in the finals, I would be big mad. I would be big mad.
That might be out of your hands with COVID, man.
I know, and obviously we have to keep those things in mind for sure. You're correct, but if bearing everything moves forward, and the fact that players actually follow the rules and take care of themselves, if we get a finals matchup, I bet it's the KD versus LeBron. I mean, we missed about a good year and a half, 2 years of this. So I need to relive this. I need another one-on-one best matchup. And think about the storyline that could come with that. You got Kyrie that wanted to leave LeBron, finally get back to the finals and play against LeBron. You got KD that's trying to take the throne from LeBron. And now you got James Harden snooping around. I mean, it's just ideal NBA Finals content on NBA Finals matchups, must-see television. And I just gotta witness that. I need to tell my kids, I saw this. So they gotta get it together. They gotta get it together.
We gotta get it right. I feel you. I feel you, Josh. We gotta let's have that elite matchup. That's what we missed last year with Giannis and LeBron. There's times we've missed that in the past, like with LeBron and Kobe. We never got to see that. I mean, if it happens, it happens. They got to earn it though. So I'm glad to see. I'm more than glad to see it if they earn it. So let's see what happens. But let's wrap it up though for now. Nice little session. Running with WARR. Like I said, we'll be back every Thursday here. We're gonna return to you every Thursday, some form of our 4-man team. Hopefully we'll have some, we should have some guests too on some weeks and everything, some real cool guests and stuff. Just gonna bring you all this hot basketball talk that we normally give you, that you can expect from us, and get into some other stuff as well, maybe some college stuff when that heats up. They've been affected by COVID a lot as well, but we'll whatever games are out there to be played, we'll talk about them, as well as the trades that are in the other off the court stuff that goes on. So keep up with
WNBA
it.
free agency kicked off too, and
Okay.
there's one thing. You know what I found out that I got to bring up that makes no sense to me.
Sure, go ahead.
James Harden, in terms of defensive win shares, this is an advanced stat, so take it as you will. But James Harden, in terms of defensive win shares, is 19th on the active list
For all time.
Yeah, for right now, and he finished top 20 the last 5 seasons, or 6 of the 5 of the last 6 seasons.
Like you say, you gotta take it with some salt. Some of them advanced stats.
Yeah, it's just how some of it is games played because it's a cumulative stat, but he's above Kawhi, AD, Draymond Green,
Wow.
Rudy Gobert. This doesn't make sense.
We gotta get an advanced stat expert on and ask them about something like that. Like, cause that's some weird stuff right there. Like, because that's basically deciding it's ranking your defense impact on wins, right? It's like,
Right. It's like, how much did your defense contribute to actual team wins?
Yeah. So I mean, it's nobody ever say that
wins over his career.
Yeah, nobody ever say that James Harden's defense has led to a win.
Except for that one game.
Yeah, that one game in the bubble with but yeah, that's interesting, man. We definitely got to look into some of those advanced stats and see what other quirky stuff is out there, man. I think that'd be a good segment.
Yeah, and just real quick on the WNBA news, the Las Vegas Aces got a new owner, Mark Davis.
He done
bought the Vegas Aces, so that's gonna be an interesting move to see what they do now in Vegas. And we got to give a shout out to Coach James Wade. He got an extension today.
Yes, sir.
That's good bringing that up. Yeah,
always support Black coaches getting bread.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. In all positions, head coach, general manager, you collect them checks, brother, and that's what he's continuing to do. And he's done a great job with the Chicago Sky, turning them around.
And while we're talking about the WNBA, man, shout out to the Dream for setting everything off in motion down in Georgia and getting that Ann Coulter lookalike out of the paint. With that Senate race.
Oh my God, please. Yes. they got one out. Now they just need to get old girl Taylor Green out of there somehow. That has nothing. If the WNBA could somehow swing that would be beautiful. But they have nothing to do with it, so it's on us.
Well, hey, at this point, you're talking about the Atlanta Dream. That can easily happen when you got LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony and Magic Johnson, all these other guys coming to the table talking with the checkbook. That can happen.
That's the good thing, because like you said, there's the rumors about some like LeBron and a consortium taking over the Dream. You got Mark Davis taking over the Aces. Like, let's get some people with some money owning these teams so they can start paying these women what they need to be paid. You know what I mean?
True.
So
that's real.
Let's definitely see that happen in 21 and beyond.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Anything else y'all want to get out before we head out? Josh, let them know about you. It's not basketball, but let them know about ITS this week.
Oh yeah, in the scope this week with Jared Payton, JP, and Josh Friedman talking the debacle at Hallis Hall. and let's just say they did not hold back. And we also talked a little bit of Bulls as well with Josh Friedman, but definitely on Friday, it's about to get some heat is coming your way. So definitely be on the lookout for that on Friday.
Yeah, definitely check out Josh's work. He did a good job with those shows this week. And like I said, Chris, no, not Chris. Chris should be having something up on the site, but I ain't got nothing to plug for him right now. But
right, the writing is hard, man. We might have to talk about that off the game.
I know, but Drew got something tomorrow. Zach LaVine, Josh, you got your piece too. You say you writing on the trade.
Yeah, I'll have that for you Friday.
Chris got the chase coming up, so we gonna keep plugging the chase until that come on.
That's why he can't write.
I like the show. Yeah, I like the show though. I've watched the first episode. I like the show, so I'm looking forward to seeing how you do on it. You got to represent, man.
It'll be fun for sure. Until we got the date, February 25th, 8 p.m. Central Time. So set a note in your calendar to check that out. Right now, WNBA free agency opened up in the Chicago Sky. I have a lot of questions, so I'm chopping it up with people on Twitter right now, and definitely look out for me and James to get something out when we can. My man James K.
Yeah, shout out to James. And definitely we'll get y'all back on the show when we get closer to the WNBA kicking back off. So yeah, shout out, keep supporting WNBA. I might get one of those hoodies myself, man. Those are becoming quite stylish.
Oh, those
I
are
need to get
fine,
one.
man.
Definitely need to
might get one of those in time for the new season. So yeah. But that's it for now though, man. Chris, Josh, much love, guys, and we're gonna keep on rocking. We'll holler at y'all next week. In the meantime, keep bouncing.